Hi, boys and girls. This is Mrs. Starrett, your science teacher. I wanted to read you a wonderful book about nature, and maybe you've heard of it before, maybe you haven't. It's called Seeds of Change. It is a wonderful book, and if you could just sit back and relax, enjoy the story, and let's get started. Seeds of Change. Planning a Path to Peace. Let's see, I think this way will be better. Come, Wangari's mother called. She beckoned her young daughter over to a tall tree with a wide, smooth trunk and a crown of green, oval leaves. Beautiful illustrations. Can anyone guess where this may take place? Based on what they're wearing and what the colors are. Feel, her mother whispered. Wangari spread her small hands over the tree's trunk. She smothered her fingers over the rough bark. This is the mugumo, her mother said. Mugumo. This is the mugumo, her mother said. It's a home to many. It feeds many too. So that's the type of tree. She snapped off a wild fig from a low branch and gave it to her daughter. Wangari ate the delicious fruit, just as geckos and elephants did. High in the tree, birds chirped in their nests. The branches bounced with jumping monkeys. More clues taking place in Africa, based on the animals. Our people, the Kikuyu of Kenya, believe that our ancestors rest in the tree's shade, her mother exclaimed. Wangari wrapped her arms around the trunk as if hugging her great-grandmother's spirit. She promised never to cut down the tree. Each year, the mugumo grew, and so did Wangari. As the oldest girl in her family, she had many chores. Every day, she fetched the water clear and sweet from the river. In the rainy season, she planted sweet potatoes. When the sun shone brightly in the dry season, she shooed the chickens into the shade. Sometimes when her brother and near the two returned from school, he and Wangari played the arrowroot plants by the stream, where thousands of eggs hatched into tadpoles and tadpoles turned into frogs. During those times, Ndiratu told Wangari what he had learned in the classes. Plants give air for the people to breathe, he said. 20 divided by 2 is 10. There are 7 great seas to sail. Wangari listened as still as a tree, but her mind swirled with curiosity like the currents in the stream. Even though she knew for the Kikuyu girls who could read, Wangari dreamed of going to school and learning, just like her brother. I must go to school, she told him. You will, and he promised. And you can see the two of them talking about their hopes and dreams of going to school and all the things that he has learned. Ndiratu talked to his parents. Why doesn't Wangari go to school, he asked. Wangari's parents knew she was smart and a hard worker. Although it was unusual for a girl to be educated, they decided to send her to school. They knew that she would not disappoint them. After some time to arrange for fees and supplies, Wangari's mother came to her. You are going to school, she told her daughter. Wangari grinned widely and hugged her mother. Thank you, she cried. I will make you proud. Imagine being a girl and not being able to go to school. That would be so sad. Think of everything that you do at school, the friends you make, all the things that you learn, and all the opportunities you get. Wangari walked the long road to a one-room schoolhouse with walls made of mud, a floor of dirt, and a roof of a tin. In time, she learned to copy her letters and trace numbers. Wangari's letters soon made words, and her words made sentences. She learned how numbers could be added and subtracted, multiplied and divided, Animals and plants, she discovered, were like human beings in many ways. They needed air, water, and nourishment too. When Wangari finished elementary school, she was 11 years old. Her mind was like a seed rooted in the rich soil ready to grow. Wangari wanted to continue her education, but to do so, she would have to leave her village and move to the capital city. Wangari never had been farther than her valley's ridge. She was scared. Go, her mother said. She picked up a handful of earth and placed it gently into her daughter's hand. Where you go, we go. Wangari was sad to leave, but she knew what her mother had said was true. Wherever Wangari went, her family went, her village went. She kissed her family and said goodbye. She said goodbye to the tree, remembering her promise always to protect it. Wangari's new life in the city amazed her. Skyscrapers towered above her head, not trees. People rushed through the streets like river water over stones. At school, she lived with other girls like her, all trying to weave their own village customs with new city ones. And at night, when the girls slept, Wangari dreamed of home and the sweet figs of the mugumo tree. Trying to learn the pronunciation of these words, so bear with me. Her dreams reminded her to honor the Kikuyu tradition of respecting all living things. Wangari was an excellent student, and science became her favorite subject. She especially loved living things. Air, she learned, was made of two molecules of oxygen bonded together. Bodies made up the cells. Leaves changed colors because of photosynthesis. And as graduation neared, Wangari told her friends she wanted to become a biologist. Not many native women became scientists, they told her. I will, she said. Wangari would have to travel halfway around the world to the United States to study biology. She had never left Kenya and had very little money. But with her teacher's help, she won a scholarship to the college in Kansas. America was very different from Kenya. In college, many of Wangari's science professors were women. From then, she learned that a woman could do anything she wanted to, even if it hadn't been done before. While Wangari discovered how molecules move under a microscope lens and how cells divided in petri dishes, she also found her strength as a woman scientist. After she graduated from college, Wangari traveled to Pennsylvania to continue her studies. Letters from home told Wangari about the changes in Kenya. The people had elected a Kikuyu president. Proud of her country and proud to be Kikuyu, Wangari decided to return to Kenya to help her people. America had changed Wangari. She had discovered a spirit of possibility and freedom that she wanted to share with the Kenyan women. She accepted a teaching job at the university. Not many women were professors then, and even fewer taught science. Wangari led the way for other women and girls. She worked for equal rights so the female scientists would be treated with the same respect as male scientists. Remember, boys and girls, you can do anything that you possibly can dream of, even if you're the first. Wangari watched sadly as her government sold more and more land to bring foreign companies that cut down the forests of timber and clear the land for coffee plantations. Native trees such as cedars vanished. Without trees, birds, they had no place to nest. Monkeys lost their swing. Tired mothers walked miles for firewood. When Wangari visited her village, she saw that the Kikuyu custom of not chopping down the mugumo tree had been lost. No longer held by no longer held in place by tree roots. The soil streamed into the rivers, and the water had been used to grow. Bananas and sweet potatoes turned to mud and dried up. Many families went hungry. Wangari could not bear to think of the land being destroyed. Now married and the mother of 3 children, she worried about what would happen to all the mothers and children who depended on the land. "We must do something," Wangari said. Deforestation, when you cut down those trees, kills more than just the animals that live there. It's so much more. Wangari had an idea, as small as a seed, but as tall as the tree that reaches the sky. "Let's work together," she said to her countrywomen, mothers like her. Wangari dug deep into the soil, a seedling by her side. "We must plant trees." Many women listened. Many planted seedlings. Some men laughed and sneered. Planting trees was women's work, they said. Others complained that Wangari was too outspoken, with too many opinions and too much education for women. Wangari refused to listen to those who criticized her. Instead, she told them, "Those trees you are cutting down today were not planted by you, but by those who came before. You must plant trees that will benefit the community to come, like a seedling with sun, good soil, and abundant rain. The roots of our future will bury themselves in the ground, and a canopy of hope will reach the sky." Wangari traveled to villages, towns, and cities with the sapling and seeds and shovels and hoes. At each place she went, women planted rows of trees that looked like green belts across the land. Because of this, they started calling themselves the Green Belt Movement. "We might not change the big world, but we can change the landscape of our forests," she said. Trees provide us with oxygen. They help with carbon dioxide. 1 tree turned to 10, 10 turned to 100, 100 turned to 1 million, all the way up to 30 million planted trees. Kenya grew green again. Birds nested in new trees. Monkeys swung on branches. Rivers filled with clean water. Wild figs grew heavy in the mugumo tree. Mothers fed their children maize, bananas, and sweet potatoes until they could eat no more. Look at all the beautiful colors of foods. Looks delicious. As the green belts moved farther across Kenya, powerful voices rose up against Wangari's movement. Foreign business people, greedy for more land for the coffee plantations and trees for timber, asked, "Who is this woman who can change so many lives with a sapling? Why should we give up our land and profits for trees?" They made a plan to stop Wangari. One day, while she was out planting a tree, some wealthy businessmen paid corrupt police officers to arrest Wangari. That's terrible. In her jail cell, Wangari prayed, and like a sturdy tree against a mighty wind, her faith kept her strong. Instead of giving up, she made friends with the other women prisoners. They told her stories. She taught them about seeds and saplings. Together, they helped one another. Wangari knew many people in Kenya and other countries. They banded together to fight for her release, and before she was freed, Wangari promised to help fight for the rights of other women prisoners too. Wangari realized that the people who had put her in jail didn't like the changes in the land or in the women. The people in charge of big companies wanted to keep the land for themselves, and the government was frightened of too many advances made by women. If she wanted to help save her country and countrywomen, Wangari would have to go out into the world to spread her message. She would have to leave her home once again. Wangari began to travel, telling her story to teachers, presidents, farmers, ambassadors, and school children all over the world. She dug in the dirt, planted seedlings, and spoke about women's rights. With everyone she met, she shared the seeds of change. In time, Kenya changed. More people listened to Wangari's message. calling her the Mama Miti, Mother of Trees. They wanted her to lead them into Kenya's new democracy. Wangari was elected Kenya's parliament and became Minister of the Environment. Still, she did not stop planting trees. In 2004, Wangari won the most prestigious peace prize in the world, the Nobel Peace Prize. It had never before been awarded to an African woman or an environmentalist. Standing in front of an audience of people from around the world, far from her village, Wangari remembered her girlhood lesson. She understood that persistence, patience, and commitment to an idea as small as a seed but as tall as a tree that reaches for the sky must be planted in every child's heart. Young people, you are our hope and are our future, she said. And then, as she had done so many times before, Wangari planted a tree. And on the back, it just talks a little bit more about the Greenbelt movement and the Peace Prize that she earns, and more about recycling and things like that. Wonderful, wonderful book. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do. It makes me tear up every time. But I enjoyed reading it to you. I inspire you to go out and plant something, plant a tree, plant some gardens, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye, boys and girls.